Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Wójtowicz, and I would like to welcome you the webinar entitled The European Green Deal, Poland's Involvement in Activities for the Green Transformation. Today, I invite distinguished guests who will talk about the most important achievements and challenges of Poland in the field of energy transformation. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our experts who will agree to take part in today's meeting. Mrs. Izabela Zygmunt, who is an expert of the European Commission, as well as Professor Marek Gruchelski and Dr. Krzysztof Księżopolski, whose scientific and professional interest focus on energy issues. The European Green Deal is a roadmap achieve the very important and ambitious goal of achieving climate neutrality in the European Union by 2050. All European Union member states should make every effort to achieve it. Therefore, I would like to address the first questions to Izabela Zygmunt. What are the most important assumptions of the European Union climate and energy policy, and what, in the opinion of the European Commission, are the most urgent challenges for Poland in this area?
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for this question and for the invitation to speak during today's webinar. Well, the European Green Deal is the overall development strategy of the European Union, and its headline objective is, as it was said, to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. However, we also have an intermediate goal, which is as important. That's the goal for the year 2030. And this is the time by when the European Commission has set itself the objective of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 55% at least. And to this end, to achieve this objective, which maybe I should add is like our efforts to be in line with what science says about the trajectory of emissions reductions that the world needs to achieve to be on the path to achieving the objectives of the Paris Agreement of limiting global warming to 1.5%. This is very important. What happens in this decade, what happens by the year 2030, a big chunk of emissions reductions have to happen by then. And this is why the European Commission has this kind of, the European Union, in fact, has this kind of objective for the year 2030. And to this end, in 2021, the European Commission presented a very broad package of proposals called the Fit for 55 package, which is basically a set of reforms which are supposed to take us there, to help us achieve this emissions reduction of 25%. And this reform, I won't go into details of it because that would take much more time than we have, but very broadly speaking, this package is first of all about the reform of the European carbon pricing system, the ETS system, where emissions from industry and from energy generation bear a certain price. So this system will be strengthened. But in addition to this, the reforms in the Fit for 55 package concern a few other sectors, because as we know, achieving the climate objectives of the European Union and of the Paris Agreement, this requires interventions in all sectors of the economy that generate emissions, and that's not just industry and power generation. So the Fit for 55 package also includes reforms that concern, in particular, the sectors of buildings, emissions from buildings, and the transport, as well as carbon sinks. We are going to increase our ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere using natural carbon sinks, as well as a reform of energy taxation. So this is like a set of quite a lot legislative acts which are soon to be finalized. The final negotiations on the Fit for 55 package are starting now. The ambition is to reduce emissions by at least 55%, as I said, and this is the broad framework. this is what's going to be happening in the coming years. And in the context of this reform, which is, I mean, in the simplest terms, we could say this is a reform to increase Europe's climate ambition, to speed up the decarbonization of the economy, of all sectors of the economy. And in this context, Poland will have to contribute to achieving those objectives. So, you know, the current model of climate governance and climate and energy governance in the European Union is that the objectives are common and each country makes a contribution based on its capacity, its commitments, its abilities to contribute. So you know, there are very few areas where Poland has specific targets, but it will have to contribute more than it would have if not for this reform. And I don't know if I still have a moment to mention the most important challenges of Poland. Yeah, so this, you know, this is based on the Commission's assessment of Poland's economy done as part of the European semester. This is a European process where the Commission makes a diagnosis of the entire European economy and the economies of particular member states, all of them. And this assessment looks at different aspects, including the green transition. And for Poland, in the last edition of the European semester, the main challenges that were identified concern, of course, the reliance on fossil fuels. This is a problem for climate, of course, because it generates emissions, but it's also a problem because it, you know, it leads to unstable energy prices. Excessive or any dependence on fossil fuels means we depend on what happens in the external markets for fossil fuels, and we are vulnerable to the price shocks as we are seeing this now. So Poland needs to speed up its transition towards renewables and needs to also speed up the efforts to improve energy efficiency. The two key areas here are buildings, when it comes to energy efficiency, because Poland also has a huge problem with air quality. And this is like the same measures, renovating buildings, replacing old boilers. This contributes to climate protection, but also to air quality. And for renewables, the key thing is the reform of onshore wind. Onshore wind is a very important source of renewable energy in the transition, but it has not been developing very fast in Poland recently due to legislative barriers, and removing these barriers is one of the most important things that need to happen for Poland to speed up the transition. This will also require some investment in grids, and the final part where like more action is needed is the decarbonization of the transport sector. This is the one sector where emissions have actually been increasing, and Poland needs to make more effort to reverse this trend. So much for now.
Thank you very much. Poland undertakes many activities to meet the requirements of the European Union's climate and energy policy. However, there is still a lot of work to be done in this regard. Therefore, I would like to address the second question to Professor Marek Gruchelski. Why is European Green Deal an especially difficult challenge for the Polish energy sector?
Good morning. The question is, why is European Green Deal an especially difficult challenge for the Polish energy sector? Well, in order to answer to this question, we should discuss the following problems. The Commission adopted the European Green Deal and tried to implement to its European Union activities. Hence, very shortly, description of this is necessary, in my opinion. Second, barriers from Poland and European Union, which hampered the process of implementation. Let me emphasize the words barriers from Poland and the European Union, because both sides there are problems of implementation principles of the European Green Deal to the Polish energy sector. And the third, suggested changes in climate policy in European Union and Poland, which will speed up the process of implementation the European Green Deal in the Polish energy sector. Without change with the climate policy in European Union, Poland cannot do too much because we are a member of the European Union, and that's now very shortly. The Green Deal contains a huge agenda for environmental law and policy. suggestion for priorities embraces the following. One, make Europe an environmental model for the world. Second, protect biodiversity within the European Union and outside. Protect European fresh and marine waters. Reduce the negative impacts of agricultural activities on the environment in the United States, the European Union and outside. Transform open society principles, transparency and openness, participation, access to judicial system. Give priority to European Union trade and development policy to the approaching of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, in particular with Cotonou Agreement and other development countries. But as you see, the most important is the first one, make Europe an environmental model for the world. Well, what happened in the case of a wrong model? This is a huge inefficient use of resources in European Union and slowing down an economic growth, and finally in the world. So this is important that Poland also participate in the discussion about solution in this European Green Deal. That's one point. Second, the question is why we have. I'm going to the question number 2. Barriers from Poland and United Union, which hamper the process of implementation principles of the European Green Deal in the Polish energy sector. Well, let's go first. In July 2022, in Poland, 75% of electricity was produced from coal. Employment in coal mines, coal power plants, companies about mining schools, university staff related to coal mines, coal power plants, coal processing is approximately 800,000 people. So you see that this is extremely important element of the economy. So it's in discussion with European Union, we have to take into consideration that Poland is relatively one of the most advanced in this situation. We may agree or not what to do, but definitely it's a huge problem, much more deeper than in other countries. Germany is produce more electricity from coal, but Germany are in a completely different situation. Now, renewable energy sources have increased to 15% of Poland in 2021. Climate fees has risen to 80 euros per ton of CO2, and the cost of electricity from coal has risen significantly. In the situation when when this climate fees are increased, practically no enterprise can survive with such burden. And what is important, that according to the research done in Oxford, for example, in order to fully to 100 to zero eliminate pollution from CO2, its cost is 50 euros. So it's at the moment is 80 to 100, so it's 50% of this. Energy transition involves huge investment in various technologies and reduce emissions. And what is important that we have to remember that most of the technology are still at the early state of development, and they are not competitive with conventional solution and required support. Therefore, it is essential to obtain public and private financing due to the pace of transport transition. It does not mean that we should not do something with resources. There is one more information. What is the basic topic with the European Green Deal? Well, the decrease of the CO2 emission intensively equals to the decarbonization of national and global levels, period. So what are the requirements from the Union? Introduction, prohibition of giving loans for mines and coal power plants in European Union, even in the situation when this these plants or mines would like to decrease level of emission. Second, pressure on mines and coal power plants to close. Both factors are negative, have a negative impacts on the process of implementation principles of the European Green Deal to the Polish energy sector. What is important, what we should know, that there is no discussion in European Union about utilization mining plants and electricity mining plant, coal plants for supporting renewable resources. Now, I would answering on the third question, I would like to say a few words about my research, because I presented in a situation where renewable resources and coal will work together. Inclusion of hard coal and lignite mining, as well as electricity and heat production based on them in the process of green transformation. Why is so important? If we look at the cost of producing renewable solar technology, is that 50% of this cost is relatively low and concentrate on the production of energy. But the next part is the storage of energy, which is very expensive, and that required a lot of work in order to prepare this for the business operation. So the idea is that to put together 80% of renewable sources and 20% of coal, but only in the situation when something happened because of the changes with the climate, solar or winter, because these renewable resources are not equivalent to the production with the fuel, production with the electricity from coal, gas, nuclear power, for example. At the moment, we have situation that gas is practically, because of the price, is not possible to use. And as concerned nuclear power, there is a question after in the 2033 or 35, the first plan will be prepared. So in fact, we have to concentrate on coal. And what is important, that the cost of joining together plant electricity based on coal and renewable energy sources are the most efficient financially, and also as concerned.
Okay, thank you very much. The green transformation is particularly difficult task for Poland due to Polish history and specificity of Polish energy sector. Natural gas was to be transition fuel from coal to renewable energy sources in the energy transformation process in many European Union countries, including Poland. This situation changed significantly due to the war in Ukraine. Therefore, my next question is to Dr. Krzysztof Księżopolski. What is the role of gas in Poland's transition to a low-carbon economy?
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you very much for the opportunity to attend in this excellent webinar. So unfortunately, gas was considered as transitional fuel by the European Union, and this is the huge problem. Why? Because from perspective of geostrategy, it was a terrible mistake. Why? Because EU depending on imported gas and oil. So why? Because in European Union we don't have sufficient deposits of oil and gas, and we thanks to this decision we encourage and let Russian to use oil and gas as political tools to impact all European Union countries and largely NATO countries. And this mistake now is important from the perspective of Russian aggression in Ukraine. But the question is why this voice from Poland and Central Europe was not taken into consideration by European Union institutions and countries, for example, Germany. So I think that we have to manage. Firstly, we have to manage the problem with oil, with gas, because nowadays we need gas to stabilize our system, but we have to looking for new technologies. We have to spend more money on research. We have to develop management of our grids. We have to develop also energy storage and maybe new technology. For example, hydrocarbon. So the problem is that we don't have sufficient, adequate technology nowadays to switch from the gas to technology. And from my perspective, this is problem because the consequences of this vulnerability on oil and gas we can see now. Yeah. From my point of view, this is not new problem, but from the perspective of households and politicians, especially in old European Union countries, this is something new, and I hope that they will change perception of this because thanks to our policy. So we are not on the top of countries on implementing low carbon economy. We use coal, and thanks that energy prices in Poland will be lower than in other countries in Europe, and this is common for Central European countries. This is common things. So from this perspective, we have to reduce gas and oil dependency, even in Poland. Of course, we use gas not only to produce electricity, but also for chemical sector. However, we have to reduce our dependency, and nowadays our situation is much better than the other countries because we develop infrastructure, and we try to use LNG and we almost finished Baltic pipe. So we will play important, maybe crucial role to keep energy security in Central Europe. Thanks to the situation that we are not fully follow European Union decisions, our situation is much better than other countries. So I think that I have nothing to add. Maybe you will have a question to me to deep this issue.
Okay, thank you very much. The war in Ukraine and dependence on gas and oil is definitely a threat to the energy security of the European Union, including Poland. So I would like to ask Mrs. Izabela Zygmunt, can the armed conflict in Ukraine accelerate the European Union pursuit of climate neutrality, or on the contrary, will this result in greater use of fossil fuels?
Before I answer this question, I would like to maybe comment very briefly on what my predecessor said about the European policy on gas. So just to clarify, it has never been a policy of the European Union to promote gas as a bridging fuel, because in simplest terms, the European Union does not regulate what kind of fuels a given member state should use. The energy mix is the sole competence of each member state, and European policy is concerned with the environmental impacts of the energy system. So it's well, there have been some let's say I don't know, exceptions in the general rules for gas. For example, in the most recent legislation on the new generation of European funds. I mean, the European policy has always been to reduce emissions while leaving the decision about the specific energy mix to the member states. So I wouldn't really agree that you can blame the dependency on Russian gas on the European Union, because it has never been a policy of the European Union. And coming back to your question, the unprovoked aggression of Russia against Ukraine has put us in a different situation, but I would say we were not entirely unprepared. After the war broke, the European leaders had to make up their minds, decide what to do next, and the decision was taken already in March to in addition to other ways of supporting Ukraine, to end the European Union's dependency on Russian fossil fuels completely and forever within the next couple of years, well, by the end of this decade. And to this end, the Commission has drafted a detailed plan called the Repower EU plan, which basically details how we are going to achieve this. And again, before I say a bit more about the details of this plan, the general objective is, as I said, to end the dependency on Russian fossil fuels by basically accelerating what we've been planning to do anyway. So by accelerating the green transition. And there are three pillars in the plan. First of all, the European Union has to basically deal with the crisis at hand. So control the energy prices, make sure that we have enough supply of energy. So there is a whole range of measures, the aim of which is to basically deal with the current situation. But in the longer term, the plan is to basically speed up the improvements of energy efficiency, faster building renovations, faster energy savings, in order to reduce the demand for energy as fast as possible. And the third pillar is faster deployment of renewable energies. And here maybe a little bit detailed. The plan includes a special strategy for solar energy, which we plan to speed up the deployment of very considerably. It also includes the decarbonization of heating. I mentioned buildings. This is very important in Poland, but it's also very important in other countries of the European Union. So faster renovations of buildings, but also decarbonization of heating and cooling. And here we've been talking about possible alternatives to fossil fuels. In this particular case, the emphasis is on heat pumps. This is a technology that's mature, that's available, that's already being deployed. And heat pumps, electrified heating, is the way we are going to replace as much as possible of natural gas used in the heating of buildings. So this is just a few elements of the plan. Again, I don't want to take up too much time by explaining it all in fine detail, but very broadly speaking, the plan is to accelerate the things that were first proposed in the Fit for 55 package, and replace the Russian fossil fuels, especially Russian gas, with energy savings, with homegrown renewable energy, and with renewable gases. Maybe one more thing worth mentioning is big focus on green hydrogen and biomethane, which are renewable green gases. So the very simple answer to your question is that in response to the Russian aggression against Ukraine, we are speeding up the energy transition, speeding it up very, I would say, in a very determined way. However, one thing that needs to be said is that we are now currently in the conditions of an energy crisis. Energy prices are going up. The gas market is facing serious disruptions. We are scrambling to make sure that we have enough energy for the coming winter. And this may, in the short term, involve an increase in the consumption of other fossil fuels, for example, of coal. And this is, I mean, it should be remembered that this is a temporary trend linked to the fact that we have to somehow manage a crisis situation. The long-term trend, however, is to continue on the path of the green transition as it has been laid out in the Fit for 55 package and the Green Deal strategy, but do it faster because of the new circumstances.
Thank you very much. I see that Dr. Krzysztof Księżopolski has a question. Have you are?
Thank you very much. Maybe not question, but comment. From my perception, the European Commission and big European Union countries are fully responsible for this situation which we have now. And if you are interested in this subject, I encourage you to read my book Economic Security and Fuel of Dominance, right, with Professor Warsaw. And the explanation you will find easily there. The problem is that European Commission use tools of climate policy to impact energy mix of countries. And this is obvious. This is obvious. But it doesn't matter nowadays. Nowadays, the problem is how to solve this problem for a short time and for a long-term perspective. We in Poland, we are safe. This is not our problem due to our policy and our infrastructure. Poland can import gas from different countries, LNG, and also by Baltic Pipe. So the problem is not our problem. However, Poland is a member of European Union. That's why we should take care of other countries, because this mistake is crucial for our economy, unfortunately. Thank you.
May I ask a comment? May I give a comment?
Yes, yes, of course.
Well, the problem with renewable energy sources is that this is not equivalent to the sources like natural gas, coal, or nuclear energy. Why? Because you have no guarantee, and this is the most important. There are two elements: guarantee that you are getting all the day energy. It's not true, because 2.5 months there are problems. So you have to support renewable energy sources by sources like coal, nuclear power, nuclear sources, or natural gas. And up to the moment when it will be not solved, there is no guarantee. And second question is that the price of gas has increased 10 times from the previous, and we are talking about a guarantee for consumers. The households and also enterprises had to accept the prices. If the price is so high, like with the natural gas, simply the guarantee, the security of energy is not prepared. I give you explanation because there was a short time. If we introduce the system when we put together and coal plant and renewable energy sources, to use 20% or 25% is 8 to 10 million tons. We use as Poland 40 million tons of coal. So 30 million we save. We can eliminate import about 10 million, because on this 40 million tons, we have 30 million from Polish mines and 10 from imports. And 20 million to transfer, for example, for extraction for gas. So, and this is with today's prices is very efficient. So up to the moment when European Union will not answer the question how to protect, to do that this renewable energy sources is ready to provide steady delivery of energy, the problem is not solved. So this the place for discussion, because the solution with the gas, as with the war on Ukraine, but not only this is the question at the moment, war on Ukraine. In 21st century, probably this war will be much more. Why? Because this is the question of fighting between the United States, China. This is the world problem. So up to the moment when we will not solve renewable energy sources as cheap, and at the same time guarantee delivery all the year, the problem is not solved. Now the question is that we should think about, not only in Poland but also in European Union, how to use coal miners and electricity plant based on coal, and choose the solution which is the most efficient. And that's not to say, because there are two problems. One is the question of utilization of CO2. An example, if we use 20% of the coal, the cost is 1/5. 1/5 for 50, that means €10 for 1 ton of coal. This of CO2. So this is not the problem from financial point of view. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Isabella Zygmunt, would you like to add something? Yes.
Yes, just briefly, I just wanted to say, because I've been listening to what Professor has been saying, and just one thing, we are not yet at a stage where we are discussing the introduction of a 100% renewable system. The renewable energy share is different in different countries, but it's, I mean, in the whole of the EU, it's still a minority. We still have a lot of fossil energy. So this problem is in a way not a problem, because we are having right now a system where we are gradually adding renewable energy sources, whereas the fossil sources provide the backup. And now, especially in the current political context, it is crucial that we manage to add as much as possible of those renewable sources to replace as many as possible fossil megawatt hours of energy during a given year with renewable megawatt hours, because this drives down our prices and increases our energy safety. But we are not concerned at this stage with the task of really closing the whole energy mix with just renewable energy sources. The target, climate neutrality, this is a target for 2050. And even then, based on what we envisage now, there will be still some emissions, probably not from energy generation, but there will be still some carbon emissions that will have to be neutralized in different ways. So in a way, we should not be arguing against the addition of more renewable sources using the argument that they cannot operate without fossil fuels, because this is how it works. We are in a gradual process. We are not yet at the end of this process.
Okay, wait a moment. The proposal is to accelerate renewable energy sources, but to protect this renewable energy sources, there is long discussion, explanation why it's so important, by using coal. That's a completely, if you introduce such system, you will accelerate implementation of renewable energy sources in European Union and in Poland. Because this is add to existing system, you add renewable resources, and you have fully protected from the point of view of climate changes with solar energy or with the wind, that you don't afraid about. The problem is that we should in European Union discuss different approach. Hybrid, different approach, not only that, and the elimination of carbon, of pollution of carbon, it does not means only one, that there will be no pollution of CO2, period. That's the definition, and that's the purpose. And if we look at the what's going on with the mining industry, what's going on in the energy plant, is the different situation. The question is not to pollute, nothing more. And not to pollute is, as I said, is very cheap, because if you use 20%, not 100% of the coal, the cost is 50 euros by 1 ton, and 1/5 is 10 euros. It's a very small amount of money. Today, our payment is, as you know, 80 to 100 euros for 1 ton of CO2. So that's, if my thesis is, if you want to accelerate implementation of the renewable energy sources, which I am very pro, you have to use coal for many reasons. First of all, is the cheapest. Second, is the easiest to storage for this. Third, at the moment you have 37% in the world based on coal. If you eliminate this, and for example change with the nuclear power, we have 10% in the whole world utilization of nuclear power. Even in the United States, it's 19%. So if you change for example, from 10% to 47%, that will mean that the price will go up, and the time of utilization of nuclear source energy is from 200 years to 40 years. So this is not easy question, and we have to look at the real barriers, and not only that we produce some new equipment. It's question how much it will cost, and whether the people can pay for this. So the idea is that we should use coal as one of the elements to accelerate renewable energy sources. Different approach, not to say that we have to close, because if you close, for example, I give you an example, the cost of transformation to 2040 in Poland is 1,600, and if you divided this by the rate of money, that is 355 billion euros, which means 10 program, which we have at the moment, national program is 35. So it's the situation of the 10 programs, and 100% on resources on energy transformation. To 2040, we are not capable to even pay this money, even if we got the money from European Union, because that means that every 1.5 years you will have the whole program like Cairo used for this.
Thank you very much. The climate and energy policy of European Union defines the direction of development of the Polish energy sector. In order to achieve climate neutrality, the development of renewable energy sources is necessary. So my next question is therefore Dr. Krzysztof Księżopolski. Which sources of renewable energy have developed the most dynamically in recent years, and what are the prospects for the development of renewable energy in the future in Poland?
Thank you for this important question. PV has been the most dynamically developed in Poland. Onshore wind energy is almost on the same level as 5 years ago due to 10H law. So the penetration of renewable energy is raising up. However, we will have and we have some problems with national grid. Especially because PV growth is generated by small installations, prosumers. So this is the situation nowadays in Poland, but the future seems to be clear. I think that first offshore wind farms will add 5.9 gigawatts by 2027 to our energy mix, and I see a great future and potential for biogas and small hydro installations. This development will solve several problems in Poland and in our region. According to research based on methodology of the time delay approach conducted by me and my team, published in Energies and annually in Warsaw School of Economics report presented on Economic Forum in Karpacz, the gap between the reference country, in this case Germany, and Central European countries, including Poland, was reduced last year. So this is important result of our research, because maybe we will have nutrients in Central Europe. And I think that all depends on the European Commission and technology. This is from my perspective, this is obvious, because we have adequate technology without energy storage, without grid, etc., etc. The cost of energy transformation will be very high, and I'm not sure if people in Poland and in other countries will be very keen on climate saving, because the cost will be too high. This is important additional topic to discuss among countries and with European Union institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I agree that development technology is very important. I think photovoltaics is developing very dynamically in recent years, and it's still very popular. I would like to address the last questions to the Professor Marek Gruchelski. Which of Poland's actions after 2000 can be treated as a success in the pursuit of the energy transformation?
Okay, answering on this question, I would draw attention on three positive phenomena. One, increase the role of renewable energy sources in the Polish energy sector transformation with offshore and onshore wind and solar as a major renewables. That's one point. Second, significant changes in the education of the Polish society, especially young people, concerning natural environment and the concept of sustainable growth. That is the problem of balance between economy, society, and natural resources. The people start to understand that you can't concentrate on natural resources or society or on production. All of them has to be together. That's important. Number three, rapid development of institutions dealing with the financing protection of the environment, both in terms of material and the scale of financing. Above all, the National Fund for Environment Protection and Water Management. I have been working 18 years and 2 years as a boss of this institution, but also regional funds for environment protection and water management. Very shortly, the National Fund for Environment Protection and Water Management will spend this year 12.3 billion zloty in this year. It will embrace three main positions: 6.6 billion subsidies, 2.7 billion repayable financing, it means loans and capital interest, and 2.7 billion European Union funds from infrastructure and environment operation and protection. And the main concentration is to clean air. That's the main is concerned national fund. So, but what is important, that we have one of the best organization of financial institutions, and in the European Union, in many countries, they believe that there is the best system in Europe. So this is very useful for doing, because any investment requires financial support. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The energy transformation in Poland is a very difficult challenge. Changes in the Polish energy sector began much later than in most European countries and accelerated after Poland's accession to the European Union in 2004. And since then, the share of renewable energy sources in Poland's energy balance has systematically increased. Is the world paying special attention to the rapid development of photovoltaics or the planned construction of offshore wind farm? Let's hope that the Polish energy sector will develop towards ensuring energy security, environmental protection, and as well as competitive and effective economy. I would like to sincerely thank my distinguished guests for such a fruitful and substantive discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.